we're going to study SD 49.10, the Sambuddha Sutta, the discourse on the self-awaken. Sambuddha means self-awaken. Sam here can mean self, and Buddha means awaken, Sambuddha. Normally we call the Buddha Samma, Sambuddha, the one who is fully self-awakened, or rightly self-awakened. S22.58. So you can remember the sutta as Sambuddha Sutta or S22.58. This is also called the Samma Sambuddha Sutta, the discourse on the fully self-awakened one. And the theme is that here the difference between the Buddha and the arhat. Now this sutta is very important to remind us that awakening is the same for everyone. There's no difference in between in the awakening of the Buddha or the arhats. They're all the same kind of freedom. It's just like, imagine the prisoners, they have served their sentence, and then they're all free, they go out through the door and they will go back into the world. It's the same freedom. So this teaching is important because after the Buddha has passed away, we know all kinds of wrong views, new views came into being, talking about different kinds of what are called cosmic Buddhas, eternal Buddhas. None of these were taught by the historical Buddha, and they're not mentioned in the suttas. So this sutta reminds us of the nature of Buddhahood, the nature of arahathood, the nature of awakening. They are all the same, in other words. Let's look at the sutta itself, the translation. There's a lot of notes for a few pages you can read on your own. The translation starts on page 26. The discourse on the self-awakened, S22.58. Originating in Savatthi, right? Section 1 and section 2. There the Blessed One said, the Tathagata bhikshus and arahat fully self-awakened on account of revulsion towards form, through dispassion or letting go, through cessation of suffering, is liberated through non-clinging, is called one fully self-awakened. Okay, this passage, section 3, defines the Buddha. Okay, but here you notice there is one line. It says, on account of revulsion towards form. Revulsion is a very strong word. Revulsion means we know something is wrong, we know something is bad, and we are no more going to be troubled by it or cheated by it, in other words. So this revulsion means something like we shrink back, we have nothing to do with this anymore. So this is form. Form here means the body, the senses, and so on. Now once you see form, if you look further down, section 4, you can see a highlighted word, the bold print, the word in bold print. What word is that? Feeling, right? So feeling, and then further down, next section 5, can you see section 5? Second line, you see another keyword there in bold. It is, what word is that? Perception. And then further down, section 6, the keyword there is formations. And then section 7, can you see section 7 brackets 5, right? So there are 5 things here, and the 5th one is consciousness. So there you are. Everything repeats itself. It's a template. So here, in other words, the Tathagata is revulsed towards form, feeling, perception, formation, consciousness. These are the 5 aggregates that constitute our being. So in other words, here the Tathagata, the Buddha, completely understands the nature of the 5 aggregates, our mind and body, and he is not troubled by them. He has abandoned them. He has let go of any kind of attachment, desire for these 5 aggregates. And because of that, he He's able to let go of all this, no more suffering, and no more clinging. So he's called one fully self-awakened. This is the Buddha. Okay. Now the Buddha defines the arhat. Look at 3.2, section 3.2. Among two. Okay, here, whenever you see in the suttas, in this kind of sutta, the word monk, it refers to a meditator, in the case of meditation, or it refers to the audience, the audience in the Buddha's time. The Buddha's audience, there are monks, there are nuns, there are lay men, lay women. So the word monk here is a shorthand referring to everyone present. Right? So this is what Buddha Ghosha tells us in the commentary to the Satipatthana Sutta. The word monk refers to the meditator, refers to everyone present, and of course also refers to us today, because it is through the monks that the suttas are preserved and handed down through the various generations until it reaches us today. So this is the keyword, monk, meaning the audience. So here, of course, is the practitioner. A monk, two bhikshus, liberated by wisdom. Okay, here the keyword is liberated by wisdom. What is the wisdom here? The wisdom of impermanence, anicca, the wisdom of suffering, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, the wisdom of non-self, anatta. So here, liberated by wisdom is just a normal, it's not a technical term, it means the arhat is totally free through understanding the nature of existence. On account of revulsion towards form. Notice the next line is exactly the same, all the italics, the same as the previous definition of the Buddha's awakening. On account of revulsion towards form, through dispassion, letting go, through cessation of suffering, is liberated through non-clinging, is called one freed by wisdom. Right? So here, freed by wisdom means the arhat, who is liberated, who awakens through understanding the Buddha's teaching. So there you have two kinds of people, Buddha, arhat. They are both enlightened in the same way, through revulsion towards form. And then the next passage, section 4, there's a second passage. The whole same passage is applied to feeling. So both the Buddha and the Arhat show revulsion towards feeling. They understand completely what feelings are, they are not attached to it, they know how to let go of it, feeling. And then the same thing is applied in next section 5 to the third aggregate, perception. Okay? And then section 6, the same situation with the Buddha, with the Arhat, is applied to formations. Formation here refers to the mental activities behind our body, speech and mind, the karma creating activity in our lives, that's formations. And then finally section 7, that is the fifth aggregate, consciousness. The Buddha and the Arhats, they understand the nature of consciousness, they are not attached to consciousness anymore, they are able to let go of consciousness, and because of that, because of this letting go, which is known as dispassion, they let go, dispassion, and because of that there is cessation, ending of suffering, and they have no more clinging, so they are free from suffering. So this is the same with the Buddha, and the same, exactly the same with the Arhat. Right? So now, in the next section, the Buddha asks this question. Look at section 8. Bhikshus, what then is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully self-awakened one, and the wisdom-freed monk? Right? So here, the Buddha didn't use the word arhat, he uses the word freedom-freed monk. It's the same as arhat. If we talk about the two categories of people, in other words, if we simplify this question, we can ask, what's the difference then between the Buddha, fully self-awakened, and the arhat? Then the monks who are present, they are very new, so they don't know the answer. So they say, this very famous line, quite humorous line, section 9. They say, Bhante, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One, has the Blessed One as refuge. It would be good indeed if the Blessed One were to explain its meaning. Having heard the Blessed One, the bhikshus will remember it. Okay, so basically it says, please teach us. We do not know. Section 10, the Buddha says, then listen, bhikshus, pay close attention to it, I will speak. Now whenever the Buddha says this is a cue. That means something very important is going to come. So we've got to pay extra attention. So the Buddha is saying, are you ready? Yes, this is what I'm going to tell you, something very important. And the monks reply, yes, Bhante. And then the sutta closes with the most important statement of the sutta. The Blessed One said this. Again, we have this marker, this line which shows something very important is going to be stated. The Blessed One said this. The Tathagata bhikshus, the arhat, the fully self-awakened one, is one who gives rise to the unarisen path. So this is what's special and unique about the Buddha. The Buddha discovers the Eightfold Path, which was not there, and it brings into being the Noble Eightfold Path. In other words, the teaching by which we can be awakened, by which the Buddha himself awakens, by which we can awaken. This is the meaning of one who gives rise to the unarisen path. You can say he discovered the Eightfold Path. Next, who causes the unborn path to be born. So here, again, the path which is not there, which is brought into being by the Buddha because of his teachings. Now there's a play on word unborn here, asanjata. Nirvana also is called the unborn, in the sense that it doesn't arise to being born. In a sense, Nirvana is always there. So the Buddha, in other words, teaches this about this path, which was not there before. Next, who shows the path yet to be shown. So here, not only the Buddha understands the Eightfold Path, understands the nature of true reality, he also teaches to us. This is very important. So he shows the path, he teaches the path yet to be shown. In other words, before him, no one has taught this. So he's the first teacher who gave us this teaching on the liberating path, the Eightfold Path. He is the knower of the path. So this is a restatement, meaning the Buddha is totally awakened, he understands the truth that he's teaching, who understands the path, right? He not only knows it, in other words, as theory, but he also understands it, he's experienced it, totally knows what it is about. An expert regarding the path. Magga Kovido. In other words, he knows how to present his teaching in a way which the audience, the listener, will understand. And he has preserved this teaching in a very systematic way that has lasted over 2,500 years, which has come down to us in the English language, in the language we understand. Originally it was in some local Indian language of the Buddha's time and place. Okay, so this is the Buddha, right? The Buddha is the discoverer of the path, is the teacher of the path, is the first to arise regarding the path. Now what about the arhat? What about the monk who is wisdom free? The next line says, and bhikshus, his disciples, now dwell as followers of that path, accomplishing it afterwards. So that's the only difference. You got the teacher and then the follower, right? So the disciples or savakas come after the Buddha. That's the only difference. There's no difference between the awakening. It's the same. The freedom is the same. But the only difference between the Buddha and the arhats is that the arhats are called Anu-Buddha. Anu in this case means follow after. Okay. Sometimes the word Anu can mean small, little, like little Buddhas if you like. But here the better translation would be after the Buddha, those who come after the Buddha. They follow the Buddha and they awaken. So this is very important to understand. The Buddha is our teacher, and it is the Dharma that makes the Buddha our teacher, and it is the Dharma that continues to live on, which touches us today. And when we understand the Dharma, we also awaken like the Buddha. Otherwise, there's no difference between the Buddha and the arhats. So that finally the Buddha concludes and says, this, Bhikshu, is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the Tathagata, the arhat, the fully self-awakened one, and the wisdom-freed monk. So there is no difference in the awakening of the Buddha and the arhat. The only difference is a matter of time. The Buddha comes first, is the first arhat if we like, and then the others follow. So this teaching is very important for us to remember. The significance is that there is only one Buddha, the historical Buddha. There are no other Buddhas in this world system, in this universe, and we don't need other Buddhas. It's just like this, we only need one captain of the ship. So our refuge is only to Sakyamuni Buddha, to Gautama Buddha. There are no other Buddhas. Although the Buddha has passed away, it doesn't matter to us because the teaching is still with us. In the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha reminds us, do not worry, do not think, do not say, oh, the teacher has passed away, we have no more teaching. Not true. So the Buddha declares that teaching will be your teacher. It is the teaching that makes the Buddha. It is the teaching, if we practice, that will make us Buddha-like, that will awaken us. In that sense, the teacher is still with us. The teacher is not a person. The teacher is the teaching. The Dharma is above the teacher. In the Garava Sutta, which records the Buddha's statement very soon after the awakening, the Buddha himself takes the Dharma as his refuge. And the Buddha reminds us to take the Dharma as our refuge, to practice the Dharma. And before the Buddha passes away, his final instruction to us is also to take only one refuge. The refuge is the Dharma, and that Dharma is our self-refuge. In other words, to practice the Dharma, so that we will awaken if we practice the Dharma. And again, he reminds us, it is not worshipping the Buddha that will help us awaken. The true worship, the Parama Puja, the highest worship, is to practice the Dharma. Because through practicing the Dharma, we become just like the Buddha. We awaken just like the Buddha. The only difference is we awaken after the Buddha. So this is a very beautiful reminder for us, which we must constantly reflect on, the teaching and the spirit of the Sambuddha Sutta as 22.58. Now let us close with a short reflection. The Dharma is still with us today. All we need to do is close our eyes, look within ourselves, and reflect on the Buddha's teaching. And then open our eyes again and look at the world carefully, clearly, mindfully, and understand nature of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. And when we do practice in this way, our minds will open up to awakening. We will awaken to true reality, and we will see the freedom that the arhats and the Buddha themselves see. Then we are awakened ourselves, we are able to help others truly and completely. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. By the power of such good karma, may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to aspire to attain stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, by the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to ourselves that we may be strong to start and wise in studying the Dharma. And to our loved ones, may they be well and happy. And to all those who have been kind to us, may they be well and happy. To all those who are practicing the Dharma, may they find awakening in this life itself. And also by the power of the three jewels, to all those seeking the Dharma, those who are lost, have difficulty with the true teaching, may they see true reality in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.